So before we get into this interview, a little bit of housekeeping. Obviously, there are some directors, filmmakers, creatives that can't make it to the festival because it can be a bit of a trek, especially if you're living in America or Spain or Germany or France or wherever. It can be a bit of a trek. So what I decided to do again was to get some pre-recorded stuff done. I got on the old Zoom, StreamYards, whatever people wanted me to get onto, I got onto them. And we did some remote calls, pre-recorded stuff, awesome interviews with some great filmmakers that I can't wait for you to listen to right now. Just because you can't get here, you should still get your Q&A, and it should still be with me because I'm the best one. You're going to be getting a few of these throughout the week, scattered around. This is Nerdly Out Loud, Nerdly TV. We are at Romford, the Romford Film Festival. We love the Romford Film Festival. We're going to continue coming back here every single year as long as they will have us. If you've been living under a rock and you have not seen this, Nerdly has got themselves into a little position where we are in partnership with Shepka Productions, The Baby in the Basket, which is a gothic horror. He's joined up with Flickering Myth to partner up and make this movie, and then they came to us and asked Nerdly to jump on board too. Absolutely, we were going to do that, and we did a crowdfunder. The crowdfunder went amazing. It's still ongoing, so you can go to Kickstarter, type in The Baby in the Basket. I'll put links all over the place. Type in The Baby in the Basket. Give £1, give £10, but only give what you can. We don't want people giving money they don't have. Please do all those wonderful things. Like, subscribe, bell, all of it. Brilliant stuff. Let's get into today's interview, which will be with whoever's in the title. But if you're not at Romford, get yourself there. Get yourself to the cinema. We are showing a smorgasbord of awesome movies. Right, so everybody, we are back. Nerdly Out Loud is back. Nerdly.co.uk, your favorite British website for your news and reviews, exclusive interviews. I am still inside Romford Film Festival. Obviously, we're pre-recording this, but we'll play it out like it's live. Trying to pull back the curtain there. But Nerdly, Romford, it's still really good to be inside you. And right now, we are talking to director Justin Stillmaker, director of a short movie called The Rider that I absolutely adored. Cyberpunk, Western, just all sorts of just lovely, neon, vibrant, just sexy as hell story. Justin, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited to be a part of this and being part of Romford. I'm not inside you the same, but
there's only room for one of us, mate. There's only room for one of us.
I'm so excited that the film is playing on a big screen with a great, because that is all we pictured while making this movie was like, let's see this thing big and let's see it loud, and getting a chance to be in like a great festival like this that is showing a film from one of my, as I was saying earlier, one of my cinematic heroes, Tony Scott. Like, The Rider is just like very much indebted to like those cinematic heroes and genres, and get the idea of playing with it and kind of trying to make it my own thing.
Yeah, man, it's like when I've been, because we watch everything, obviously, and this is probably, it's easily, as I've already said to you, it's easily in like my top 5 movies that I want to go down and I have to see on that, because when we're at the cinema, when we're at the festival, I don't really get a chance to watch everything there, but I will absolutely be sitting down to watch The Rider on that massive screen because, man,
it's meant to be big. I promise we try to deliver. You got fight scenes, you got weird practical special effects all over the place, and a score that'll just rattle your chest.
Exactly. But we'll talk about that in a quick hot second. Sure. Let's jump back a little bit. Okay. Where does Justin Stillmaker come from? What got him into the industry, and why would you want to do filmmaking?
Ooh, these are good questions. I grew up in kind of a split between Chicago and the Bay Area. And because of that moving around and kind of having a turbulent childhood, movies were always consistent. You know, you put on your favorite thing. Everything in life might be crazy, but, you know, Keanu Reeves is going to save the day in Point Break. Batman's going to win. And so I think that was like where my initial addiction started. And then at some point I was like 16 and I got my hands on a video camera and I started filming backyard wrestling. and it was just
Nice.
the mixture of like violence and editing, and I was like, oh, this is what I need to do. And so I basically have started on a career of doing that. I went to film school. I've worked in commercials, and this film was kind of intended, we started like kind of thinking of it in the middle of the pandemic, and it was just, you know what, I just want to make a Valentine to the things I love. And that's how, and while that might be weird to say for this kind of movie, it is. It's a movie where it's all my favorite things from my childhood all kind of glammed into a movie together.
So the original initial concept, like what made you go, I'm going to put all these things that I love, everything from my childhood, I'm putting it all in this movie, and it's going to be awesome. But what was the initial sort of chestnut?
Well, so what's very funny is, so Adam Peterson, who is the cinematographer and did special, like he's the guy besides me on this movie, and he was like, hey, my friend just bought a motorcycle, do you want to go film some stuff with it? And I was like, sure, that sounds fun. And then from there, I like kind of landed on this idea of like a hitman ranking system like Uber. And then just sort of like that was the initial kernel. And then we also, while at the same time getting access to a motorcycle, I found out through a friend that I had access to a factory. And I was like, okay, now it starts piecing together. And that was just like, okay, I'm in factories, I have a motorcycle, I'm in James Cameron land, which is where I've always wanted to be. And I was like, okay. And then, during 2020, kind of felt like a bit like a modern dystopia. And so,
God, yeah.
yeah. So
right, what you know.
yeah. So it just sort of kind of coming into place. And then at some point we're like looking for the perfect look for because we're just going to do a simple thing of him just driving around in a cool outfit. And then I was like, well, I kind of like the story. And it just sort of expanded from there. And if I can go on a little more, the actress that plays number one in the film, she had been in a commercial I directed like 3 or 4 years ago. And there was an image from behind the scenes, like her and 2 other actors. And they just like kind of looked at me while I took like a black and white photo. And they looked like the coolest aliens that ever come to this planet. And I was like, I need to make a movie about them. And so that was always floating in the back of my head. I was like, okay, I wonder if suddenly I made this connection between the two. And I was like, oh, I have my love of motorcycles and old factories and James Cameron, and I have this sleek, stylish look. And I went and got it. And I was like, I need to combine these two. And that's how basically the writer happened over the course of a summer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And could this potentially be a proof of concept then? Could we be getting?
Well, I'll let a little secret out on the Nerdly Inside here. We are doing a feature.
Fantastic.
It's had such a fantastic festival run, and it seems to be everyone wants it. He's equal, and I was like, it turns out I can't get enough of this, and so we are in the midst of, we were looking for a little more financing, but it looks like the end of September, October, we're going to be shooting Rider the feature, and so we couldn't be more excited about that.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. The look and the style and the tone of this movie is so it's so purposeful and it's meant to be what it is. What were you've already named a few different people that inspired you, but what were your main sort of frames of reference for like, I want to be that epic?
The first guy, as soon as you set foot in a factory in Chicago with a welding torch, you're thinking of Michael Mann. That's like I showed my wife Thief after we had made the Rider. She was like, "Oh, I see what you were up to," which was like a fun little moment. But the epicness was, to me, this like, I just grew up watching those. Like, in the end, my favorite genre is like big action movies, and and so like, it's all in my DNA. But like, James Cameron is obviously, there's no one bigger who makes bigger movies. But like, I screened at a festival recently, and they mentioned the original Tim Burton Batman, and I was like, and I had grown up watching those movies, and I was like, oh, I see what you mean with like how he kind of feels like a superhero, and there's this like the backdrop of the city like feels a little I was like, I took it as a big compliment, because I was like, oh yeah, but like Kira is like, I mean, you got a cyberpunk and a motorcycle, and then like, Blade Runner, like. The one goal for us was I had this idea of like, I think about this a lot with horror movies, but even science fiction, like the Terminator and James Cameron, these movies that are like these dystopias, and there's always these things happening, and I don't have the budget to blow up as many things as I would like yet. So I was really entranced with the idea of like, what is it like if we just sort of walk around that world? Like, let's just kind of like create that world, but like not have as much motion, not because we, for budget reasons, couldn't have as much action. And so that's sort of where my initial like slowing down the movie really like make the texture. I want like that. I wanted you to feel the grime, and I wanted the sound to make you like. And so that was kind of the goal with the movie, was like, let's build like, let's hint at an epic world, but like, what would it be like? You know, I'm always like, what's the stormtroopers day to day? Like, these are things I always think about. And so that was a little bit like the insight of like, okay, how can we do something epic without like, you know, trying to, because my biggest fear always with big action movies is trying to be bigger than you can achieve. And even as we approach the feature, that is something that's always in our mind, where it's like, you don't want to look cheap, and you don't want to look like you can't do it. So you got to scale back and get to the maximum of what you can do. And so that's sort of where like the ethos of the writer began.
And I know what you mean about just walking around the world. It's kind of like the games like BioShock and Fallout and all that. You've got like these open world sort of, but you don't really see the nuts and bolts. You just kind of walk around the terrain. I like that. I like that a lot. Sort of Mad Max kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, that was another one. The original Mad Max was like very much in my mind, because I had this idea. What I like about the first Mad Max, it's not the best of all the four, obviously, but is that it feels like pre-apocalyptic. Like it's like there's still a police station, and like everything's off, but you're like, oh, they're gonna slide into Road Warrior territory real soon. And so like that was a little bit like, there's this app for murder. It's like at no point is anyone going, wait, that's not a good idea. It's like they're just about to go, the wheels are about to come off. It's like, before we go full Akira dystopia, we're like, 2 beats before is sort of like just a little off screen from your favorite movies.
So this one's a bit of a three-parter, and sure. I quite like this because you are clearly massively passionate about what you're doing. So when making The Rider, what was what would you say was the hardest moment for you to get? Like, it could be a shot or something like that, but what was like the hardest thing? What was the most rewarding? Okay. Could be when you got that hardest shot.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite thing that is up on the screen when you watch it?
Ooh, these are all good questions. Okay, I'll start with the hardest moment. It really is like me and Adam, my collaborator on this, is so the scenes in nature were all shot on a sort of half deserted island in the chain of lakes outside of in Illinois. And we had access to it, but we had to bring everyone there by boat. And it just, things did not go how we wanted them. There was like some issues of where we could film and couldn't film. And so basically, it was just like a very hectic day that a lot had to get done. And it was in the fall. And so we were fighting sunlight, and it looks beautiful. I'm like so happy we shot on it, because like that's one of my I feel like as an independent director for a lot of years, you just find interesting things to put on screen. It really helps your movie. And so it was worth it to go there. But it was just like everything was going wrong that day. And that's like the final showdown. Like there's just like everyone was working their hardest. And like I recently talked to a couple of crew people who I hadn't spoke to since that day. And they're like, oh, that was like the most fun day ever. I was like, I'm glad, because I was just like slowly exploding. But it was also very cool to like take a boat to set. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm making Jurassic Park or something. I feel like I'm this. Sure, we're already 2 hours late into a 10-hour day, but so I probably would have shot more. But also, like, I think it created the ending we have. And I feel like while some people certainly have lots of thoughts on it, it creates a reaction that I don't think I would have actually delivered if it wasn't for the hard moments of that. The most rewarding moment is the nanobites, I think. So there's a shot in this movie. I don't want to ruin it for but like our character runs his hands over these nanobites that he puts in his weapon. This movie always sounds so ridiculous when I talk about it. So that shot, everyone like it's really geeked. It's like, we did it practically. So it's actually just oil with metal shards in it and a giant magnet under a table that's moving them in his hand.
Wow.
And what's the other trick in it is, so the table that he walks up to is metal, but the close-up is a wooden table that we put like painted a plastic tray. So it like matches on the cut, but if you know to look for it, you're like, oh, that's clearly a plastic server tray painted. Silver, and it's just like every time it gets a reaction, it made the trailer, it made my reel, it got me my manager, and so like it's just like so funny the practical effects that came through.
But that's the thing though, because like when the movie starts and you do get little scenes like that, that instantly makes you think, oh, they had a budget, like
Yes.
because it looks so damn good.
Yes.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm glad you picked that.
Thank you. The most rewarding pain in the ass thing are all those. So like, there's a big fight scene where everyone has like neon lights running up there because I mean, Cyberpunk, we gotta have neon lights, and he has the one out his helmet, and then all the other people's having weapons, and those are they're like what people often use for L-Wire for like cosplay outfits.
Yeah,
and so they're not meant to go through a lot of work. And so I just like we shot that whole sequence. It was like it was like a 3-day. We shot it over one day, but we had planned 2 days before. But I feel like half that day is just people rewiring, putting batteries in. Looks great on camera, but I'll just feel like I'm always like, are we still waiting for lights? So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
money is no option. You've got all the money in the world, and
sure.
you're making this feature.
Yeah.
Who do you get to play the writer?
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, so the writer is played by the guy who owned the motorcycle, and he's Nick Pieroni's his name, and he is not an actor. He was a former circus performer. So like I always look for dancers and people who have like interesting movements. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like it should be someone slightly older. But it's like still, I don't know. This is a good question. I don't know the answer to this.
You think you might have thought about that though?
I'll just say because he's like one of my favorite. I think he's just a great movie star face. Chris Pine, I think would be a great like. He's got that. He's got that kind of like again movement. Like Michael B. Jordan would be really interesting. I like, but like it's because I've been writing the feature. He never talks, so it's like I was like, I don't know. We can have a stuntman is the answer. Actually, if my true answer, if World and Jackie Chan, like it's Jackie Chan inside there. Like I want. That's how I think of the character a lot. Is like someone who's just like falls down, gets beat up, keeps moving, clever, but never like overpowering. Is how I think of the writer.
I love that. Mm-hmm. How did you go about putting together the score? Because you said earlier that the music in this movie is absolutely pivotal, and I totally agree because it sets off the whole tone of the movie. How did you go about putting that together?
So before I do any project, I make a Spotify playlist because it's what I use to procrastinate. And so I put together a Spotify playlist of stuff, and I tend to listen to kind of synthy dystopian type like metal and school. I listen to everything, but like that's like a lot of what I listen to. And I shot another short little film. We shot out on a frozen lake. It was like a 1-day shoot. And an actor in it was like, he'd been in a part of the writer that ended up getting cut. And we were just talking about it, and he was like, "You know who you need to meet? You need to meet my friend Denny." And I was like, "Sure." And he was just like, his whole dream is to score a Cyberpunk movie. And I was like, "Well, it does sound like I need to meet this Denny." And so Denny came. We met. We hit it off as people who love action and science fiction. And he actually was in school for sound design. And so he was like, I want to do the score, but would you also let me do the sound?" And I was like, yes, please. Let's do it. And so it was a longer process just because like in the midst of when we wrapped, I moved from Chicago to Los Angeles. And so we were doing a lot like over the phone and stuff, but like sound design and the score is just like he's just so good at it. And like I also had the nightmarish moment of watching a fight scene without sound design. And you feel like a complete and total failure. Like it's like you know, like sound matters, but like boy, thank God the actors were like making like it's like watching it's like dancing with no music. It is like so. I was like, oh no, but no. Once Denny came in and started adding sound and score, and I was like, oh, we have a movie. And like, if I may circle back to one of your questions, I think my favorite shot of that movie is the overhead of the motorcycle. Where he's driving across a bridge, kind of going to the nature zone, and the score hits, and it's just like, I did it. We made it.
That was as I referenced earlier, sort of like the Matt Reeves shot. When the Batmobile's upside down and then he gets out of it and the flames are all behind him. instantly, when watching the rider, that's the shot that came into my head as he goes over the bridge, which
that's awesome.
I totally get what you're saying there. So,
Yeah.
plus, it's Matt Reeves.
Yeah.
So we're going to start wrapping out a little bit, but please do. You're obviously promoting the rider. You're pushing out there.
Yeah.
We're so happy to have it at the festival, and I can't wait for people to watch it, especially on that big screen of ours. But you're working on the feature. Is there anything else you're kind of working with? You're looking at?
Yeah. So the writers, hopefully, if everything continues on pace, happening this fall, and then I have a horror comedy I wrote with a writer named Jen Ramirez, and that one it's out to actors and it's getting some good feedback, and so hopefully that will be the next thing. And then I mean, for me, I'm always just constantly I treat Instagram as my blog, and so that is if you should go check out Justin Stillmaker at Instagram, or I also have a website by the same that I update, I don't know, every 6 months, but I'm just constantly going to be putting out we have a lot of interesting stuff, especially as we build the writer as a feature, which also has Instagram writer film. We're going to be showing a lot of behind the scenes of the practical effects and how we put it together, because I want to show people that you can make your big budget action movie of your dreams on a budget if you just think it through first.
It's sort of like the Robert Rodriguez 3-minute film school kind of thing.
He's the GOAT, right? Like, just for teaching people you can do it. Yeah.
I mean, he's up there. So definitely. That sounds awesome. I love all that.
Yeah.
And I have to ask a question, because I saw in your write-up, your director's biography on our film Freeway.
Yeah.
You directed a scene with Robin Williams.
Oh, yes. So again, I've been obsessed with movies for a long time, and we lived in San Francisco, and my mom worked downtown, and there was a movie filming across the street with Robin Williams, and my mom, being a cool mom, let me skip school and come down, and I just stayed back with it was a scene with a lot of extras, and so I was initially watching, but I snuck my way onto set. And so Robin Williams, being the awesome human that he is, was talking to everybody. He goes around, he's talking to all these extras, and if you've ever been an extra, you know that you're basically treated like cattle at best.
Yeah.
He's trying to make chit chat, and he sees me, and he's like, "Well, it was a period piece," and so he was like, "You're not supposed to be here," and I was like, "Yeah, I just wanted to see how movies are made." He's like, "Well, then you need to meet the director." So then he grabs me, he brings me over to the director. He's like, and so it's a big wide shot. And he's just like, "Do you want to call action?" And I was like, "What?" It's a scene where Robin Williams and a bunch of people are getting off a bus. And I was like, "Yeah." I'm a scared, I think 12 or 13. And and so I was like, so the director very much could see how eager and could, I'm sure, see himself in me. And so he was like, "You should call action." And so I was like, "Okay." And it's a big Hollywood production. And then Robin Williams starts to screw with me. He's just like, "So what's my motivation? How do I get off? Why am I getting off the bus? I could just sing in here." And so he's like, "You got to give me a reason to get off." And I was like, "Well, you've been on this bus ride for a long time. You're really hungry." He's like, "Okay, that's a reason." And I call it an action. And so technically, I like to believe the first person I ever directed was Robin Williams. The problem is the movie's not that great, so that's why I feel like it's the only. And I can't, and I blame myself, obviously. It's Patch Adams was the movie.
Patch Adams is all right.
It's sweet, and Tom Shadak is a complete that's incredible.
Yeah.
In fact, I like to believe that that does not happen very often, and that was just such a sweet moment, and Robin Williams was a prince.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. And on that, for anybody out there who wants to be a filmmaker, wants to be a director, wants to get into the game, what's the one bit of advice that Justin Stillmaker would give them?
Get good sound. No. I think the biggest thing is just start doing it. Whatever. The best part about art school or anything, you just get all your bad ideas out early. Do not wait for a good idea. Just start making something. Just because you'll learn so much in doing that you'll eventually get to a good idea and have the skills. Instead, I feel a lot of people get paralyzed by fear of not making something. And it's just start. Just start it. Don't be scared. None of us know what we're doing. So
yeah. So just start, everyone. Just get started.
Dive in. Don't be afraid.
So we're going to wrap that out, but please do, everyone who is watching or listening or anything like that, please do, if you're in the Romford area, come and watch The Rider, because you're going to absolutely love this movie. It's a banger. I'm so pleased that you're talking about a feature, because it deserves one. It needs one, and I just want to see nice big cyberpunky, westerny, Blade Runner-y, Tony Scott-y. Just put it all out there.
Yeah, it's
everything
coming.
on the screen. Throw it at the wall. I'm there for it. I'm there for it.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
On the last question, and then we will absolutely wrap out.
I'll talk all day. That's the problem.
Oh no, I know that. I know that, but the problem is so will I.
Yeah.
But what's the best thing you've heard someone say coming out of an experience of watching the rider, or you saw somebody write online about the rider? What's the best comment you've had about the movie?
Honestly, it's you kind of the amount of people that have asked for more, like it's like to have like, and like that it was never intended to have a sequel. It was just like, we like this world, and the fact that so many people love the world and want to see more of it is just like, it's kind of a dream come true. I mean, I'm sure it's like, I can only imagine when, like, you know, people make things and they make sequels, like we frown on that, but like, man, it means people want to spend time in something out of your mind, and like, I can't get enough of it.
Exactly, and I think there's a lot of filmmakers out there that when you say, I want more of this world, I want more of this short, a lot of them kind of turn around and go, well, what's wrong with the short? Why do you need more? Like, was it not perfect? No, I need more of the writer. I need more.
Yeah, it's coming.
Or you could just make Akira. I'd be okay with that.
I would be fine with that. That's fine. It's kind of untouchable, though, right? Like, is there a way to do it? I mean, Jordan Peele did the best Akira shot you can do, and
they've been talking about it for years, haven't they? And they seem to think it'll happen one day. I hope it doesn't. Just leave it. Just leave it.
It's too cool.
But on that, I will let you bounce out, and everybody check out the rider.
Thank you. Awesome. I hope everyone enjoys it. Thank you so much. This is so cool. Thank you, Romford. Thank you, Kevin. This is, and the Nerdly Inside. This is so cool.
Do you know who this is? If you think really hard, you'll know who this is. If you come looking for me, I won't hesitate.
Is that a threat?
No. It's a promise. Surprise.